Welcome back, everyone. We are back from the break. Ladies and gentlemen, I shall now introduce our next speaker, who has quite an illustrious record, Wing Commander Dr. Prashant Mishra. Dr. Prashant Mishra received his MBBS and MD degrees from the prestigious Armed Force Medical College, Pune, and subsequently pursued his DM in clinical pharmacology from AIIMS, Delhi. He has also done MBA in healthcare sciences from SMU. Currently, Sir is Associate Professor in the Department of Pharmacology at AFMC, Pune. He is also a member of the Institutional Animal Ethics Committee and a member of the Multidisciplinary Research Unit at AFMC, Pune. Dr. Mishra has over 12 years of research and training experiences and has been associated with reputed universities like Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, Bangalore, and Maharashtra University of Medical Sciences, Nasik. Dr. Prashant has several publications in noted journals to his name, including 8 national and 6 international publications. His area of expertise includes rational use of drugs, bioethics, non-communicable diseases, and medical education. Sir is a distinguished academic and medical professional with a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we are grateful to have him here with us today. He will be speaking about the requirements of registration of clinical trials in India. Please give him a warm welcome. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. I hope I am audible, loud and clear, and you can see my presentation slides. Am I audible?
Sir, you're audible.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Sharik for inviting me to this platform. Over the next 45 minutes or so, what we are going to do, we will be talking about the requirements of registration of clinical trials in India. Basically, we will be talking about the CTRI registration. You must session, Dr. Pooja Gupta has talked about the documentation of the clinical trial, and one of the requirement was to register it in a public accessible system, that is in Clinical Trial Registry of India. So I will be covering the talk. Yeah, so I will be covering my talk under the following heads. First, we will see what is CTRI is all about and why we need to require the register the trial in the CTRI. All trials are to be registered. Is it mandatory? Or what is the CTRI registration process and what are the CTRI registration data sets? And what are the problems which we come across while registering and how to mitigate them? So we will be discussing all about this. So just to give you a basic concept about CTRI, due to various unseen events in the history of clinical research, the various stakeholders of the clinical research has thought that there should be some primary public accessible registry should be there. And with this thought, the World Health Organization in 2005, they came out with the International Clinical Trial Registry Platform. And with a sample of that, India also started thinking of developing some kind of free online public access platform. So in July 2007, the Professor N.K. Gongli, the then DG of ICMR, he has launched a CTRI website, that is www.ctri.nic.in. That time, the registration was voluntary. The registration of clinical trial was voluntary in 2007. Whereas in 2009, in June 2009, the trial registration was made mandatory by the drug regulatory agencies of India, that is your DCGI. And voluntary, it was a mandatory, so it can be prospective also, or it can be a retrospective also. So there was a leeway which was given for almost 10 years. But on 1st April 2018, this registration process was made prospectively. Prospectively, I mean, before you enroll the first patient in the clinical trial, your trial should have been registered in the CTRI. There was no retrospective registration of the trials were allowed after 1st April 2018. The aim of this CTRI was to make the research more transparent and the researcher to be more accountable, and this the data of the clinical trials should be accessible to all the public, and it should be free and it should be online or easily accessible by the public. Now, it is very it is to be noted that most of the time we talk about the US registry platform, that is your clinicaltrial.gov. This clinicaltrial.gov is not a primary registry of this as per the WHO. Whereas our CTRI, the Clinical Trial Registry of India, is one of the primary registry among the 17 registry all over the world. So the CTRI has got three kind of access. One is your public access, second is your registrant access, and third is your administrator access. So in this talk, most of the time we will be talking about the access by the registrant, because as a researcher, we need to register a clinical trial. So we will be talking more about the registrant part. Whereas as far as the administrator access is concerned, this administrator access is mainly for the members of the CTRI secretariat, and it is only the project scientists who reviews whatever we register in the CTRI platform. These project scientists, they review and they ask for some clarification or modification. So the administrative access is for the members of the CTRI secretariat. Your public access is for the common public, and your registrant access is for the person who is doing the clinical trial. Okay, so why it is important to register a trial? As per the WHO says that it's a scientific, ethical, and moral responsibility of all the researchers to register the trial on some public accessible platform, and also it helps in facilitating the healthcare provider or the policy maker to take an informed decision by cutting out the publication bias and selective reporting of the trial results. It also avoids the unnecessary duplication of the trials. If we have an access to see that what all trials are going on all over the world, so unnecessary duplication of the same kind of trials can be avoided. It can also facilitate the recruitment of the participants. Why? Because if the participant know that there is some kind of trial which is going on somewhere, and this is the trial site, so they can approach the trial site themselves, and so it will facilitate the recruitment. And overall, it will lead to the improvements in the quality of clinical trial. Even in the Declaration of Helsinki, it has been mentioned that every clinical trial must be registered in a publicly accessible database before recruitment of the first subject. So with this, so those are some advantages of registering a clinical trial. But as far as a researcher, why we need to register? Because there are some mandatory requirement by the Drug Licensing Authority, that's your DCGI. It mandates the registration of clinical trial prospectively from 2018 onwards, 1st April 2018 onwards. And even the ethical committee, they ask for the CTRI registration before they approve the protocol. Okay, we will discuss, there are some few finer points in there that we will discuss as we go on. And even some general editors, especially your International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, ICMJE, they also ask for the CTI registration for publication of your data. Okay, so the bottom line, what the WHO says that whenever you are in doubt whether to register or not, it is always best to register the clinical trial, because it cannot be registered retrospectively. Only the prospective registration is possible. Okay, so just to give you a broad overview of how the registration process flows. So suppose this is the first time anybody is going to the CTRI website. So he will register as a new applicant. He will register as a user. So for that, we will discuss how he can register as a user. So after registering as a user, he has to fill some information, and then a confirmatory mail is passed with username and password to the mail which you have written in that application form. Okay. Now the confirmatory mail will contain your username and password. This will be followed within 48 hours. It will be followed by a second mail which will activate your account. Just getting a username password doesn't mean that your account has been made, unless and until you receive a second email which says that now your account has been activated. Okay. Other point to note here is that sometimes these mails comes in your junk or spam folder. So one should always check the junk and spam folder also of the email. Okay, and look for these mails. Now, once your account is activated, then using the username and password, you can log in to your CTRI website, and there you will find a window where they will be written, click on add new trial. Then you have to click on that, and then there will be some data sets will be there. You have to fill those data sets, and at the end of the part 8, there will be a click to submit to CTRI. And if it is submitted successfully, you will get a REF number or reference number, also called as acknowledgement number. Now, once you have got your acknowledgement number, that means your reference number, that means the trial data has been submitted to CTRI for review. So the CTRI secretariat, they will review your data, and within 7 to 10 working days, they will revert back to you and they may ask you some clarification or modification, and you have to resubmit those your clinical trial data with whatever modifications they have suggested or whatever clarification you want to give. And along with this, you have to upload your protocol ethics committee approval letter if it has not been submitted earlier, and also your approval by the DCGI if it is a clinical trial which is applicable. That those documents you have to upload. And also there are some verification emails are sent from CTRI to some of the participants of the clinical trial that we will come across, and from the verification mail from those participants should also be received by the CTRI that they are actually the participating in that trial. So once these three things are approved or received by the CTRI, then they register the trial. And once this trial is registered, then you will get a CTRI number. Okay. So please remember that just getting a RAF number or reference number doesn't mean that your CTRI has been, your clinical trial has been registered. Okay. Unless and until you get a CTRI number, till that time your trial is under review. Once you get a CTRI number, then only your trial is registered, and after that only one should start enrolling the patient. Most of the time it has been seen that we believe that once the REF number or reference number we get and we start enrolling the patient. That is not correct. We should get a CTRI number, and then after that we should start enrolling the patient. And once or as the trial goes on, we have to update the some of the information which are there in the clinical trial data set. We have to update it regularly. Okay. So whatever we have discussed in the flowchart, the same thing we will see. We will have a virtual tour of the same thing. So this is your website of your CTRI. Okay. So here, if you are a new applicant, you have to click on the new applicant link. Once you have clicked there, then it will ask for some kind of information. So please read whatever details are there, the notes are there clearly, because these things you have to avoid so that your registration application doesn't get rejected. Okay, so they will ask for the information like first name, login, security question answer, gender, official address with name of organization. So many details they will ask. And please remember the details with the asterisk marks, these are mandatory. This needs to be filled up. Okay. The most important thing about this thing is your email ID. Your email ID should, whatever email ID you are putting up, it should be working email ID. And whenever you are typing it, should be typographically correct. Okay. So these are the things which you have details which you have to fill. Now there's some other details which you need to fill. Now some details are not mandatory because they don't have asterisk marks. So those details with asterisk marks, they become mandatory that you have to fill. Once you have filled everything, then you have seen there's a verifier name. Now most of the time the CTRI accept that the verifier name should be a person who is already registered on the CTRI website. Okay. After that, when you put a security code and submit, what will happen? You will receive 2 mails. Okay. The first mail, as we have discussed, that it will contain your user ID and password. Okay. And then maybe within 48 hours, you will receive the second email, which will say that your registration request has been approved. Now your account is activated. Now you can log in to upload your trial data. Okay. And these, please remember, you have to also look for your spam folder or junk folder and see whether you have received this mail or not. If it is said that within 4 days, you didn't receive a mail from the CTRI, or within 4 working days, if you didn't receive the mail from the CTRI, then you should always write an email to the CTRI, or there are some contact numbers are there on which you can inquire about it, that you have registered as a user, but you have not received the mail or the username, password, or activity. Okay. Now, once you have received your username and password and your account is activated, then you have to log in. You have to put your username and password and put the security code and log in. Now, once you have logged in, this window will open up. Okay. Now, you have to register a new trial. Then here you can see their link. Click here to add new trial. So when you will click on that, so before clicking on that, what all things you require? These are the things which should be there with you before you click on the new trial, because these are the information which you should have. So these are information which will be required to be filled up in your new trial application. Okay. Now, so you should have a protocol with you. You should have a ethical committee protocol submission letter or the approval letter. You should have a regulatory approval letter from DCGI if it is applicable for that particular clinical trial, or any other trial registry registration number if the same trial has been conducted in some other country and you are just a part of that trial or multi-country trial. So the registration number of that registry should be there with you. The trial sites details, the details of the principal investigator at each site. In the details, you should have the name, official address, affiliation, designation of that person, the telephone, fax number, and the email ID. And also you should have information about the sources of monetary or material support. So all this information should be kept at hand before clicking on the click to add new trial. So once you have clicked to add new trial, this window will open up. So this is your clinical trial data set 1. Okay, so where you have to fill up the 3 things, that is your public title, scientific title, title acronym if it is there, it is not mandatory. Title and scientific title, please remember that your scientific title should be the same which is written in the protocol. Is the ethical committee approved protocol, the title should match with that. Okay, this title cannot be different from the title in the protocol which has been approved by the ethics committee. Okay, the scientific title. If there's a mismatch, then you will get a query. Okay, and what need to be filled here, if you there's exclamation marks, if you click on there, generally in the window they will come that what kind of details you need to fill up in these boxes. Okay, just to explain you this, just to give an example, like suppose public title of the study should be the title which is intended for the lay public, and it should be in the easily understood language. Okay, just example, suppose a clinical trial to study the effects of 2 drugs, ramipril and canesetran, in a patient with high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes mellitus. This may be a public title of one of the study. Okay, where is the site? Where is the scientific title? It should be as per the protocol submitted. And same thing can be written in the scientific title, like a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled crossover clinical trial to compare the safety and efficacy of ramipril and candicertan in hypertension patient with type 2 diabetes mellitus. And maybe an acronym like RACE can be given. The acronym is not mandatory. It is just to explain you how the public title and scientific title should look like. Public title should be in the easily understood language which can be understood by the lay public. Okay. So once you have submitted, once you have after putting the public title and the scientific title and the acronym and whether it is related to Ayurvedic trial, yes or no, if you click on proceed, what will happen? Your trial will get shown here. Okay, but here you can see your ref number is pending, your CTRI number is pending, and your scientific title will be shown here, and view details. There will be full. If you want to see what till now what you have submitted, you can see in the full details, and after that you will see update. Okay, so after this step, whatever the data you have need to fill up, you can take your own time. Okay, the earlier you will fill, the earlier the CTRI will review that, and earlier your chances of trial registration will be better. Okay, now update. When you click on update, what will happen? When you click on update, so you will see so many clinical trial registration sets which needs to be updated or which needs to be filled up. Okay, like part 1, we have already filled. Okay, so these are the various sites. Now the part 1 we have already seen. The part 1 contains basically your public title and scientific title. Okay, now coming to part 2. So when you click on the part 2, what will happen? They will ask for these details, like your secondary IDs, your principal investigator or overall trial coordinator in case of multicentric trial. So all these details needs to be filled up. And from where you can get these details? Basically, your protocol will contain your all these details. This detail should be there in your protocol also, the principal investigator and overall trial coordinator details, whatever is applicable. Okay. There are 2 important things are there: contact person, scientific query, and contact person, public query. Okay. If the contact person, scientific query and public query is same as a principal investigator, you can click on yes. If they are the different, if you want to nominate different person, So the first thing, secondary ID, so your secondary ID number is any number which is basically I told you that if the same trial has been registered in some other registry, okay, then the same ID number has to be mentioned here. This is just to see that the same trial should not be counted as two different trials. Okay, so by this secondary ID, they will get a the CTRI will get an indication that this this trial has already been registered in some other registry. So it should not be taken as two separate trial, it should be counted as one trial. Okay. Okay. Coming to the part 3. So part 3, basically you have to provide these details: monetary material support, primary sponsor, name, address, type, and then any if there is any secondary sponsor. Okay. And the countries of recruitment and number of selected countries. So all this information you need to fill up. This information should be available in your protocol. Okay. Then coming to the next part. So next part will ask for the names of your sites, your DCGI approval letter, your ethics committee approval, all this information they will ask, and the health condition, like for what health condition you are doing this trial. Okay. So all this information needs to be filled up in the particular space which has been provided. Okay. Now, coming to the next part, your health condition. Our health condition is very, very important because now a new rule have come up that these health the health condition is to be whether it's a healthy human volunteer or and if it is a healthy human volunteer, nothing is to be trial participant, healthy human volunteer. Now, if it is a patient, then you have to follow the ICD-10 condition. Okay, so there are 4 levels are there: level 1, 2, 3, and 4. So just to give an example, like suppose trial is there, which is conducting a trial. The patient condition is type 2 diabetes mellitus with some diabetic neuropathy, suppose. So these are the links which you have to select. It's a drop-down menu. You have to select the EC 89, the endocrine, nutrition, metabolic disease. Then at the level 2, you may select diabetes mellitus. Then type level 3, you have to select type 2 diabetes mellitus. And the level 4, the type 2 diabetes mellitus with neurological condition. And then you have to add. Okay, so you have to follow the ICD-10 classification. Just to give you some other example, like suppose for dental trials, you may have to follow these labels. Okay. So sometimes for some conditions, you may have go up to 4 labels. For some conditions, you may find at the level 3 level. And coming to the next part, your whether it's a study type, whether it's a postgraduate thesis or no. So please select, if you're doing as a postgraduate thesis, please select yes. Then the type of trial. So you have to select it from the drop-down menu. If that your type of trial is not there in the drop-down menu, then you can specify in case of other, and then the study design. So click on proceed after filling up these data. So these are the types of trial design. Okay, these are types of trial. So you have to click, you have to check the correct box, whatever applicable. And then it's a study design. Also, you can see the in the drop-down menu you will have this kind of study design. So you have to select the particular one. If your study design is not found in this, then you can select others and then you can write down. Okay. Coming to the next part. So in the next part, you have to write the about the intervention. Okay. Then about your inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, and the methods which you are choosing to generate randomization sequence, methods of allocation of concealments and blinding and masking. Whatever is applicable, all these details will be there in your protocol. If the protocol is very well written, all this information you can find in the protocol. Okay. So enter the specific names of the interventions and the comparator or control being studied. And as far as possible, use the international non-proprietary name. Okay, don't use the brand name or the trade name while writing the names of the intervention. And for any unregistered drug, even the generic name, chemical name, or the company serial number is acceptable. Coming to the next part, inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, method, all these things you have to fill up. And after that, the next, your primary outcome, your secondary outcome, your target sample size, date of enrollment, estimated duration of trial. So this, it's all these things, all these fields are self-explanatory, I guess. So nothing to explain in this, just you have to fill the correct thing which is there in your protocol, you have to fill that. Okay. Okay. Now the next part is the what is the recruitment status of the trial. So mostly whenever we are applying for the first time, it will be not yet recruiting, because we cannot recruit the patient till the time we get the CTRI number. So many times your Indian status will be not yet recruiting. Okay. Publication detail, you don't have to write nil initially. Okay. Then you have to write a brief summary. Okay. Now in the brief summary, you have to write the short description of the primary purpose of the study, why it is being conducted, your brief statement of the study, hypothesis, inclusion criteria, and all those things you have to write in your brief summary. And after that, in the last, you can see they click here to create PDF for your record and validate data. So whatever data you have filled, you can click here to create PDF, and you have to just validate data whatever you have filled. Okay. Once you find that whatever data you have filled is correct, and then you can submit here. Click on the submit to CTRI. Okay. And if it is successfully submitted, what will happen? You will get this kind of window. Okay. So where what you can see, all the things are ticked green. Okay. On successful submission for review. And here you can see your reference number or your acknowledgement number. Okay. Please remember, just getting a ref number or acknowledgement number, you should not start enrolling the patient. Okay. This does mean that you have submitted your data to CTRI for review. Okay. Now the CTRI, the secretariat will review these data. The scientists there will review your data. Okay. So same point, same thing which I told you, that assignment of our ref number indicate that the submission of the CTRI for review, and a trial is considered registered only has been assigned a CTRI number. And please remember, since the CTRI can, the trials can be registered only prospectively in the CTRI after 2018. So if you have started enrolling the patient after the trial, cannot be registered retrospectively in the CTRI. So it's always better to wait for the CTRI number and then start enrolling the patient in your trial. Okay. Okay. So basically, within 7 working days, the CTRI secretariat will ask for some clarification and modification. And those clarification modification, where you can see, you have to click here to update the trial, send back after review by CTRI. When you will click here, you will get a link. You will get a kind of window like this. Okay. So where you will see clarification sort. So whatever clarification sort, if you want to modify, you have to click on there. You will get a window where you can modify or you can add something, whatever the clarification, you can justify that whatever clarification has been asked. Okay. Same thing that you can see name modify. Okay. Now, important thing to remember here is that there are two sites where you can see. Okay. Where you can see that the modify window is active. The modify link is active, but no clarification has been sought. What does that mean? That these particular two things, they are unlocked permanently. Okay, they are not locked. Once even if you have submitted the data, these two will remain unlocked, so that you can modify as the trial goes on. You can modify these two fields. Okay. Otherwise, all other fields are logged, and only if the clarification is sought in a particular field, then only that field is unlocked. Okay. So coming to the next, so once you have submitted, you have given all the clarifications, then you have to click here to resubmit the data. Okay. Now, when you have clicked here to resubmit the data, what will happen? All the modification and clarification you have given. And second thing I told you, that there has to be some verification email from some people who are participating in the trial. The for in charge of your scientific query. The details, if you remember, the public query and the scientific query, we have to fill the details of the person. So the CTRI will send an email to those persons, and those person has to reply to that email. Like in one of the trial, I got this email because I was this in reference to trial this, and according to details provided, you are the contact person for the public query for that trial. Okay. So I have to reply back for the trial, then only the CTRI will consider that trial for registration. Okay. So if the from the public query, from the scientific query, if the person is different from the principal investigator, then they will receive this kind of verification emails, and we have to reply that. Okay. So we have to be careful whenever we are entering these names. We have to tell that person that you may receive some kind of mail from the CTRI. Please reply it back whenever you receive this mail. Okay. So we have already talked about the ref number and the CTRI number and what is its importance. So we will not touch it again. Okay. Please remember, you have to enroll your first patient only once you have get your CTRI number. Don't start enrolling the patient after getting your reference or acknowledgement number. Okay. Okay. So there may be some questions like queries like, can we delete the trial once it is registered? So please note that once the trial is registered, it cannot be terminated and the same has to trial also. Now, may think we add or delete any data which we have provided during the registration of the trial. So there are provisions, there are some SOPs are there which needs to be followed if we want to add or delete some data from whatever data we have provided during registration. Like for site addition or deletion of any trial site, we have to upload the ethics committee approval for the same, and we have to forward the list of the new site and the details of the PIs, the principal investigator of that site, in a mail address to ctri@gov.in. And whenever we are doing this kind of correspondence, we should always write the reference number in the subject of that mail. Okay, it will become easier for the CTRI members or secretariat to correlate that for what clinical trial registration you are sending this email. So those ref numbers should always be mentioned in the subject heading. Okay. Now, suppose for new contact person, then verification email has to be sent from the new contact person. Okay. For change in the methodology, obviously your protocol, the whatever change you have made in your protocol, that needs to be approved by the ethics committee. So the ethics committee approval letters has to be uploaded. Okay. And second, whatever changes you want to make, you have to send it in a tabular form. That okay, this is a existing data. This is a thing which we want to change, and what is the reason for changing that. Okay, so the field in which we want to change, what is the existing data in that field, and what will the new data you want to add in that field, and the reason for the same, for the addition of the or change in that data. That has to be computed in a tabular form, and that also has to be sent on that email at the CTRI. Okay, then after assessing that, they will unlock that particular field. Okay, and then you can modify that. So the points to remember while we are registering the our clinical study in a CTRI site, that first thing we have to work out the registration plan. Now it is advocated that suppose we want to recruit our patient, that from the date of the first recruitment of the patient, if we go prior the backward, at least 3 weeks time should be there. Okay, so that you can have a time for whatever modification or clarification the CTRI is asking. You can submit those modification and clarification, and you can get your CTRI number before recruiting, before the date of your first recruitment. So we have to work out our registration plan. Minimum 3 weeks time should be taken in hand. Okay, from your first date of whatever is your probable date for the first date of enrollment of the first patient. Okay, then before we we start registering data, there are some frequently asked question section, and the registration data set sample is provided on the CTRI webpage. Okay, we should have a look at that, and we should try to understand that what kind of data will be needed. Okay, it will give a clarity to you that how to go about the registration of the clinical trial. Okay, then we should provide working and correct email ID. If you have written a correct email, incorrect email ID, then you will not get your username and password. I mean, all your correspondence will not be there. Okay, so we should always be careful whenever we are typing our email ID in that application form. Okay, and we have to check our junk or spam mail. And if we have not received any correspondence from the CTRI after registration, then we should contact within 4 working days. Then we should contact the CTRI for the same. Okay, and please remember, once you get a CTRI number, your trial can be immediately viewed in the public domain from CTRI. Okay, whereas the same thing in your international clinical trial registry platform, that is your WHO platform, we will be able to see after a month or so. Why? Because these data from the CTRI, they are updated in the ICTRP platform on a monthly basis. So don't get worried that you are able to see this data from the CTRI, but you are not able to see that data in the ICTRP, because it takes almost monthly it is updated. So maybe a month or so it will take for the same data to appear in that. Okay. So in the last, the registration is online and free in the CTRI, and you have to register prospectively. Please remember that before the enrollment of the first patient, you should have a CTRI number in your hand. Okay. All types of studies can be registered on the CTRI, whether it's an interventional trial or BA studies or post-marketing surveillance. When your thesis, even your Ayush or Ayurvedic trial can also be registered in the CTRI. As far as observational trial is concerned, observational studies are concerned, that it's your discretion, but it is advised that it's always better to register retrospectively. Okay. It is a duty of your principal investigator or the primary sponsor to decide whether the trial needs to be registered on the CTRI or not. So they have to take a decision, and then accordingly they can initiate these steps. Okay. In case of multi-centering and multi-sponsor trial, it is a lead sponsor or the lead PI who is responsible for trial registration. Okay, and this once you have registered the trial, you started your trial, and the trial data has to be updated at least once every 6 months. Thank you. I am finished. If anybody has got any query or anybody wants to add anything, is most welcome.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation, sir. So we have a few questions from the delegate side. We'll take a couple of them for now, and the rest we'll upload it later as FAQs. So the first question for you that we have is, for CTRI registration, is IEC clearance mandatory? And do they ask for the IEC clearance number while registering?
So it's a very valid question, because these are the problems which we are facing in day-to-day life. Basically, all the researchers face this problem. Now, the answer to this is that generally the ethics committee, if you submit the CTRI that you have submitted, you have applied your clinical trial data, you have submitted, you applied in the CTRI, and you get a ref number, your reference number. That reference number, generally most of the ethics committee, they accept that, okay, the person has applied for the registration on the CTRI, and it takes some time, because for CTI registration you require a ethics committee approval, and for ethics committee approval you require a CTRI registration number. So most of the ethics committee now, they are started accepting that the ref number, once you take a print out of that you have already applied to CTRI, they accept that. Otherwise, as per rule, for ethics committee approval, they insist for CTRI number, that is that whether you have registered in the clinical trial or on the CTI website or no. And the CTRI, they want a ethical committee approval. Before getting an ethical committee approval, they will not give you a CTRI number. So somewhere somebody has to win, and I think the ethics committee has become magnanimous, and now they accept that even if you submit the proof that you have applied with a ref number that you have applied for CTI registration, they accept it. I hope I have clarified the issue.
Thank you, sir. So the next question that we have is, does descriptive academic studies also require CTRI number, sir? Over to you, sir.
I think the answer to that was there in one of the slides. I think the academic clinical trials, better to get a CTI registration, okay, because some ICMG approved journals. So it will not create a problem for you. So most of the good journals, they have started asking for CTRI number. CTRI number you require, you may, or it's your discretion whether you want to the academic clinical trial or DGCI permission, regulatory permission is not required. The CTRI number is must, registration is must.
Thank you, sir. So the next question that we have is, can we apply for grants if CTRI registration is not completed? And would they allow grants like that?
There's no clear-cut answer to it, but it's always CTRI registration just takes maybe maximum till the time you are hearing me out, maybe 30-35 minutes if all the data is there with you. Filling up data just take 30 minutes, and whole CTRI registration process will take maybe 2 to 3 weeks because of the time taken by the CTRI secretariat for review and all those things. So it's always, I will advise, it's always go for CTRI registration, and there will be better chances if you have registered your trial in the clinical. And before applying for fund and all those things, I think these fund details and all those things needs to be mentioned in the CTRI form. Okay, so most of the funding agency will not ask for CTRI number as such.
So the last question for you, is it mandatory to register every clinical trial under CTRI, sir?
Yeah, if the trial is being conducted in India, the study participant or study site is in India, it needs to be registered. I hope I'm answered the queries. If any clinical trial which is being conducted in India, they needs to be registered in the CTRI. Even if it is a multi-centric trial, if one of the clinical trial site is in India, that needs to be registered.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to answer all the questions. We will post the answers, the remaining of the questions on the website. And once again, I thank sir profusely for being with here today and sharing such relevant information and also answering the questions. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.